and what exactly the care should be taken when we're trying to translate and so on. So we thought about few important data structures which possibly would be important rather every time when we really want to implement such a translator. So we used some mechanism to really work out the strategy with respect to the data structures that might be involved into complete setup. Okay, so we pointed out or we tried talking about few important data structures which might be important in respect of working with uh, the translator. Correct. So let us move further and really address a few more things. So in earlier session we talked mostly about what would be the kind of program, what components would be there in a program, what are the different types of the program. Even we talked about what could be the possible data structures that may play an important role in the implementation of a system. Fine. And let us now move further and really try to address few more things which would probably be important for us to understand how it goes. So let me share the screen. Okay. So now let us try to devise how the opcode table should be or how the symbol table should be. Now when we start working with the program, no matter what kind of assembler that you may want to. So in the initial stage, we will be talking mainly about one pass. Then we will move towards two pass. But no matter what kind of assembler we are discussing about, we will require the data structures to be defined. Correct. Now considering the output of commands that are fired by, say, fired by us in Linux, we saw that there can be some components included in the file that you would be you would be using. So if I write nm a.out, we saw that it is displaying us the address. Correct. It is displaying us which component it belongs to and displays us the name. Now this representation, what we are calling as address, how exactly it should come from. When we do talk about even the LST, say for example, if I take p.lst, we saw that there is a line number also included. So when we are creating an object code, probably this line number may play an important role. And that's what, like when we talk about debugging, okay, using a debugger, we do set a breakpoint appropriately by the name of the object or by the line number. Good. So this line number should be part of the system. So what exactly you would be doing is like what are the program that is taken by you. You'll be adding line number for every line that is included in the code. So say for example, let me take. If I consider this, say for example, if I make changes in this code, suppose this is how I wrote the code. So if I try to generate masm-a lab3209.asm-l p.lst. Now if I look for that p.lst, you will see that the blank line also is having a line number. Correct. In this case, these blank lines also had line numbers. Right. So you could have done what? You could have stripped it. Now how exactly will you apply this naming criteria? So you are going to have some kind of format for the input. What are the assembly file that you are going to take? So I don't know how many of you wrote a code probably by making use of C with the files. Okay, have you written file handling programs in C language? How many of you haven't tried it yet? File handling. You haven't at all tried it. Okay, I could see one hand. So rather you should try using files probably in C, because C will give you good picture of how these file operations are carried out. Correct. Now you may think of writing codes to copy a file, to delete a file, to remove a file, to move a file, and so on. Correct. So start working with it. You can take help of your seniors or your batchmates rather to gain that knowledge of handling the file. So now let me give you one task. When I say one task, I mean by for everyone. So let us say you have an assembly code written like the way that it is shown right now in front of you through the terminal. Correct. Let me open that code. Suppose this kind of code is given to me. I want to compute how many times one particular character occurred. Okay, initially I am talking about one character. So I want you to create an array. So it would be two-dimensional array. Correct. So that array would be what? First would be name of that character, and second element would be count in that table. So read this file. Okay, read this file. Whenever you see a character, you add that character in the table and appropriately work out. Now, how will you implement this? Suppose this is a task given to you. How will you implement this? Okay, you can unmute and let me know what would be your strategy if at all you have to implement this code. I hope you understood what I want is. I want you to take input this kind of file, and I want count of occurrence of each character that can be seen over here. So what would be the choices for you? How will you implement this? How will you implement this? Yes, anybody? You can start unmuting and then you can tell me how exactly you will work out. Take any assembly code available with you, and then you have to do or you have to carry out this process. How will you do that? Yes, please. Have you understood my problem?
Sir, hash map.
Okay, now start with simple solutions first. So let us say what I am doing is I am having this list. This is an array: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Then I will have all of them to be capital. The numbers, some symbols which I know would be probably permitted in the code. Okay, now what I will do is one thing is like whenever if I start reading that program, so I saw S section, so I will go to this index. I will compute one. So I need to find this character. Correct. Like either what would be the methodology? I will first read the file. We'll find all A's, then we'll find all B's, then we'll find all C's. So every time I'm going to revisit that code. So whatever the number of characters are, those many number of times I'm going to revisit the code. So this looks very time consuming and performance wise it would not be good solutions. What would be other solution for me? I may create a linked list here so that I can directly jump to that level. Correct. So there would be hundreds of different solutions which possibly could be, but if at all I have to implement this kind of structure, how I'm going to do this? Now this would be your first task. Second task would be what? Now you have to identify words. What are the different words that are available? So whenever you are finding a word, add that in that array. So one method is either you have this static list created where first column would be containing this. Second thing is what? So suppose you got S. So you will write SECTION. Now I am getting text again. So again one more T. Correct. So I would be doing TEXT. So I would be getting E. I would be getting XTEXT. I would be getting T. Correct. Either I would be grouping them in some fashion. So that grouping might be related to say one aspect, rather where I'm going to collect all symbols together, which would be characters from A to Z. Some of them would be symbols, particularly like dot, underscore, and so on, semicolon. Correct. Others would be like the numbers. So I may apply either of the categorization, depending upon how exactly I'm going to make use of it. Now, if at all I have to carry out this activity, how would I do this? How possibly I will be doing this? So rather, though I am suggesting you to make use of C language, you may prefer to make use of Python 2 or even Java. But it would be better if you use C, because it will give you good opportunity to even address these elements into the data structures that you have, data structure course that you have. So think of this. Now, if I talk about the data structures that were part of our translation process. So static data structures would be what? That are already known to us. Opcode table, error table. Directives are known to us, correct? Then declaratives are known to us. What would be dynamic? Dynamic data structures. Which will be dynamic data structures? I'll be having symbol table. Right. Second thing would be what? I would be having probably literal table. So I may go along by adding these kind of data structures. Now, if at all I am going to have these all things as a static ones, how do I create this static data structure? Because even every time either they all would be in a file or they all would be in a particular data structure, like what Tushar was suggesting. But then, like, I need to understand basically what would be other alternatives. Those would be there for me rather to work out these data structures. So to implement these data structures, now I am asking you, first thing is what? You know the characters, the first assignment that I gave you. You know the characters which would be part of it. I want count of each character there. Then you think about words. Whenever you are getting a word, add it there. Now, main challenges in front of you would be how would be design of that data structure. Second would be search techniques that would be required for you to really search existence of that particular object in the data structure that you have. In the data structure that you have. Now, what would be the other possible aspects for me rather? Now, if you see, if at all I have to implement this opcode table, you exactly know that there are multiple instructions given and you exactly know how the forms are defined. For every instruction, opcode is already predefined. Only you have to pick from that and map it there. The way that we saw, for example, in our LST file. So if I pick an LST file rather from my code, so if this is If I pick this LST, I exactly know that this FLD would be DD. This FLDZ would be D9. This FLD1 would be something D9. Now, whenever I'm working with these all, so here I'm assuming that this D9 would be used for some specific thing. Okay, so there should be some order, like I can see some kind of mechanism that is applied. So FLD is considering like DD, FLDZ and FLD1. Both of them are having D9. Even FLD pi is having D9. Correct. That means what? This definitely is going to modify few aspects. What would be parameters? What would be other things that are there? So it may be the case that this opcode may be of 2 bytes for this FLD instruction. Some point of time, like your opcode, what is the length of opcode? So some opcodes probably would be say 1 byte. Some opcodes may be 2 bytes, or some opcodes might be 3 bytes. So what we identified from the Intel manual was the instruction set, like when I go to that particular page where my instruction format is. Chapter number 2, yeah, this one. So opcode, when I talk about this opcode, it is either 1 byte, 2 byte, or 3 byte. Correct. So what should be the data structure that I can use to map this opcode table? Now, what would be part of my opcode table? So let me reach to that FLD instruction. Now see, whenever I am using it with M32 floating point value, okay, it would be D9, D0. There is 0/0/0/5. So it is adding something over there in between whenever I am talking about the code. When I talk about FLD, say pi, if these are the remaining FLDs. So FLD1, it says E8. So this opcode you may see here, it is directly coming up as 2 bytes. With this FLD, it is only a single byte, only FLD ST. ST is the register that I talked about, the floating point register that I talked about. That number would be added here with C0. So depending upon whether you are using ST0 or ST7. Correct. Now, but when I talk about this FLD with some suffix 1 log to base 10, sorry, log 10 to base 2, log e to base 2, pi value, log 2 to base 10, log 2 to base e, correct? Log like a pushing 0. So each of them is having a 2 byte opcode, because there would be some limitation with respect to representation. Because if I think of what would be my opcode representation, if I start with, say for example, start with 0 0. So I would be having 0. Now in hex I'm talking about 0 2 0 3 0 4. One time would be there where I will finish with my possible opcodes. FF. Correct? Then I have to think of 0 0 0 0. So this 0 0 0 0 would not be picked. Now this would be 2 bytes. So in this case, this how exactly I will be telling it that it is 2 byte. Again, there would be a question on what basis we are going to define whether an instruction would be requiring 2 bytes or 3 bytes. So at most, if I take example of Intel architecture, maximum number of bytes that are dedicatedly used for an instruction to use it as an like to define its opcode is 3 bytes and minimum is 1 byte. So 1 byte, 2 byte or 3 byte. Only these would be the 3 categories my instruction would be distributed into. So if I have to talk about that combination, so I would be ending with this 2 byte thing with FFFF. Sorry. Then I would be having 0 0 0 0 0 0. Then I'll be ending with FFFF. So these many combinations would be there for each of them. So starting from this rather till this. So how many all such possible combinations would be? Those many instructions would lie there. And we even saw that there could be possibly a suffix included like 66. sorry, prefix is included, like 66, 67. When we use repeat prefix, when we used a 16-bit operand with the as an a register or as an value. So when we deal with such aspects, how exactly now to define an opcode table as? What should be the mechanism of designing our opcode table? Can somebody suggest me what should be the columns of an opcode table? Hmm? Yes, please.
Prefix.
Sorry. Can you repeat? I could not hear properly.
Prefix.
No. I want you to provide me columns of that opcode table. How many columns should be there? Like when I talk, or let me put it in a database concept. Like I want to define an entity called opcode table. What should be the attributes of that entity? What do you think? Considering that Intel manual, let us say if I take this as an example perspective. Like one can see that there is an opcode, there is an instruction included, then it is saying something, its description is there. And even we saw that it would be providing you information about whether you are having /0 to /7 or probably /r to be a value, which is letting us know that there is a mod rm byte included and so on. So let us think of like how exactly or what different columns would be by you rather to really think of an opcode table. Yes, please. Yes, please. Somebody. So is it sufficient? Like I would be adding instruction as in a first column, then opcode, then I would be requiring length. Why length? If I see the code here, when I talk about this instruction, so let me pick this. In this case, when I started with this move, so B8, and then what is size of this instruction? So I started with 0. I am going to 4 because I have to increment this value. I need to move, give address to next one. So I will require length of each opcode 2. In this case, length of my opcode would be always 5 with such instruction. Move EAX comma some value. Move EBX, ECX, EDX, ESI, EDI, ESP, EBP. With all of this, I would be requiring size to be 5. When I do talk about jump ABC, length is 2. Jump ABC kind of statement, length is 2. When I have add EX comma some number, so which if it is a 8-bit number, then it's sufficient. A byte is there, then byte. If I cannot fit that number into a byte, then I would be taking 4 bytes ultimately. Is that fine? So I need to know now size of each instruction, which would be used by me rather to add into this base address so that next address can be calculated. So if I see this is 5, So 0 to 4, that's why 5 came here. 5, now again it is 5. So 5 plus 5, 10. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then next address is A. A, two addresses, A and B. That's why next is C. C and D, that's why E. E and F, that's why 10. 10 and 11, that's why 12. 12, 13, that's why 14. 14, 15, that's why 16. 16, 17, 18, that's why 19. Right, so this is how you definitely will be requiring some length parameter also for an opcode. So let us try writing this. Now you keep adding columns for my table. So I'm saying instruction, then opcode, then size, mod rm is required or not, then that's slash number. So what value you are requiring there? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 7. If you don't require anything, put dash there as a value. Correct? So because we saw slash 0 to be component of the code. Like for example, if I talk about this FLD above, we saw this slash 0. Correct? So we need to know when and where exactly that slash 0 is to be used. What would be other things? Operand types, OP and D count. OP and D 1. Some of them would be optional. OP and D 2. If it is not having anything, then put dash for each value. Correct? Can we think of this to be kind of data structure, and you may have some description also, if at all you want. Think of a customer that you are creating a linked list with for a customer data structure or customer linked list for an hospital. So then what will you do? You will be doing this one, this kind of case only. Correct? So how will you handle that? How will you prepare this data structure? How will you add these components into that data structure? So you have to add all these, you have to define these all opcodes. So now let us think of what would be the possible instruction that you are going to take. Move register to register. So I'm adding that the instructions which you have to consider. You have to take increment, decrement, add, register to register, move, register immediate, correct? Move memory immediate, move memory register, move register memory, correct? Same thing you are going to repeat with add. Even replica would be there with sub, replica would be there with div, replica would be there with mul. Okay, depending upon what kind of support is there for the instruction. So then you are going to take jump unconditional and then conditional jz, okay, jnz, jump if above, jump if below, correct? Then you are going to take cmp. These instructions should be sufficient for you for considering your own assembler. I want you to add these all instructions in your assembler. Now the assignment that I gave in the initial stage, like first assignment I gave was try to put a count for every word. So you have only 1 day for it to implement that assignment. When I'm going to add that submission deadline, even if you submit beyond that date, like till say for example tomorrow 9 AM, you should be submitting that assignment. Okay. Note that from 11 to 5 or 6, probably Moodle may not be accessible, but it's okay. So after that only you should be able to upload. That's why I'm giving you time till 9 o'clock tomorrow. Because these assignments would be absolutely necessary for working out with respect to your internal evaluation. So those having issues with or problems with the implementations can definitely meet. So let me know like what time you would be coming. prior probably. So I will be letting you know when exactly or where exactly we can meet together. Fine. Noted these instructions, take a screenshot and share that. Probably Tushar do this so that you can share this screenshot to all the students in this chat. So I want these instructions to be added into your instruction of code table. Fine. Then other table that you are going to have is register table. So because you would be requiring representation for each register, EAX, ECX, EDX, and so on. Because we saw these registers are numbered with say 0, then this is 1, this is 2, and so on. Correct? So define this register table. Third thing, like you can define like I want you to first come up with the solution to first assignment with the count. Next day, like Wednesday, you are going to submit your second assignment, which will be providing you count of every word that is occurring as a new word in the system in the file. Okay. Then thirdly, we are going to verify whether the words are predefined. So you are going to define these words in your one of the file, and you are going to check with the word in that data structure. What is the data structure that you are having, or a file probably flat file. Right? So then you are going to talk about error table. Add all possible errors. How errors would be written? So you are having error state error name for an identity and error description. Correct, error and error description. This should be your this probably should be sufficient for you to store information about predefined errors, because all errors should be known. Otherwise, you cannot generate errors randomly at runtime. So how many possible errors could be there? Like if you recall, probably I might have asked you to write a code which will contain different more than 20 errors probably. Now you know most of the times your errors are frequently same. Almost all the times your errors are same. Then what will you do if at all you don't want that error to get repeated? So you have to take care of. So this error table would be static. Okay, what are the static name error tables that I added earlier? Correct. There would be a dynamic table too. So let me go up and add one definition of dynamic table also. So that dynamic table would be what? Error info. How that error info would be there now? Error info will contain what? So it will have line number and error number. You will store this list. Okay, you are going to store this list, and then you are going to only display. Like you will have line number, so line number 1. Now you have error number. Read this error number into the error table that you have. What is the text that is added there in error description? Display that description there as an error message. Right, so we said error table will have some columns as error ID or error name and what would be opcode table? We are thinking. So opcode. First of all, instruction opcode, then size of the instruction, then whether it is containing mod rm or not, then it is going to have whether it is going to contain something as /0, /1, /2. That's why I'm simply writing the slash. Then it will have opnd count. Then if at all I have operands, then operand 1, operand 2, and description. You may add a few columns if you wish to. columns, I mean to say, which could be used to represent these tables. What would be the directives? If I see the code, when I use db, dd, and so on. Okay, let me show you that from Linux machine. In this case, if you see, my directive section.txt, it is not having anything here. Global main, it is not having anything here. Main, it is not having anything here. Correct. So here I haven't used any particular directives rather than this global main, global and maybe section, text. Okay, they all are my some keywords, reserved words which are necessary. But when I do talk about directives, global is the directive that it is telling me that global. See that your code execution start from here. So if I write, say for example, 2 values as global, can that be permitted? So say trial test dot asm. So if I write section dot text global abc comma pqr, abc rate pqr increment ex rate. So if I use 2 global, will this be permitted? So it should permit this, because whenever you are creating a library, right? Whenever you are creating a library, then that library should have all function names written there. Now, if I really search or use this nm, I can see that they are part of text section using capital T. Correct? Okay, so what would be other columns for directive? So let me add another directive there in my code. What would be other directives? Sorry. Dot data would be telling me that okay, your data section starts. So db, this is a test. Len equ is a directive for me. $-a. Correct. So let us see this translation. Now see, for len, it hasn't added anything. Len, it hasn't added anything. Now, but if I really see this say nm output, I can see length to be added there, and you may see now like it is having something as small a. So if I check with a man of nm, what is small a? Let us see. So is it having small a added there? What was that? Small. Yeah. So one can see capital A, correct? Symbol's value is absolute. Small a probably, let us see whether it is going to display that small a for us somewhere. It doesn't have that information of small a, correct? At all. So that means capital A and small a referring to same thing. So this dash a is different than what you have there. Okay, it is an option. So small a, suppose if I take another variable there in my code, Right. What can be seen? Now let us we took only say a max. So we took lane again. So it is not giving us any error. So if I use say has it given any error to us? This lane probably is repeated, right? If I see, if I remove this, it is not showing me error, correct? So it is taking that latest wala, latest lane. So if I repeat it, replace it by say lane 1, then it is showing me different one. So we'll take lane 1 only. Lane. Okay. Here I will write main. Label n lane inconsistently redefined. Now why that error was not shown to us when we wrote this earlier? Probably the program might not have been saved by me at that point of time, right? At that point of time. But ultimately I could see that this was there and I'm using this code rather for LST, right? For LST. So my assembly, like if I remove rm star dot o, okay, and then let me include this. Now you would be seeing that error because my program might not have been saved. So lane inconsistently redefined, originally defined here, correct? So line number 3 it is described. So let us go back and let us add lane 1 and lane 1. Now for both the lanes, see it is having this small a, small a. Absolute means what? Absolute value. What is absolute? What do you mean by absolute? Hmm? What is absolute?
Non-negative.
Non-negative. Okay, one as one maybe kind of type. Okay, go on. Do you see any other answer for this? Somebody wants to add answer to, other answer to this? Hmm? So are they constant? Are they constants? Yes, please. बोलिए बोलिए जल्दी. Yes, I'm waiting for your answers. Hmm. Yes, please. I'm waiting for your answer. I'm repeating again one more time. How will you do this? Or what would be the mechanism that can be used to represent that? Are they constants? If they are constant, then what exactly happens when, how exactly you can seize so that the values would not be changing in further point of time? Okay, so anyway, I'm adding the text. Uh, you have to give me declaratives and directives like information. How will you save them? Declare directives. I gave you one example. Okay, like EQU, section, text, and so on. So declaratives DB, DD, ResD, ResB, and so on. Fine. So work on it, and I want you to come up with some outline of the choice of your data structure for choice of data structure. I mean to say, how will you store the values? So I'm adding one file for your reference in the chat. So where exactly I have saved it? Desktop. Yes. So you should be able to see that now in the chat window. Okay. One was added. Now let me add another one. Yeah, this one. Okay, use these files for your reference. Along with that, complete my first task. I'm adding day by day now the tasks for each activity. Okay, which you are going to work out and submit on Moodle. Fine. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
adding straightforward that thing part for you peoples.